Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. She jams the ultrasound picture against my chest and grins. The glossy edge bites through my shirt, sharp and deliberate. "Look, Claire, look at him," her voice cuts clean. My name is Claire, and I was 34 then. I already knew that blur would ruin something forever. I catch the picture before it slides down my ribs. The tiny shape swims in gray static, labeled baby boy. My thumb trembles on the corner just a little. I should have dropped it on the floor right then. Instead, I stare like the future might blink first. We stand by the window, blocked in by chairs. She chose this corner on purpose, nowhere to escape. Her hand rests under her ribs, protective and proud. "You jealous yet?" Her mouth curves, eyes bright with victory. She wants a scene, she wants witnesses, she wants blood. I breathe once slow and hand the photo back. "Why am I here, Jenna?" My voice comes out steady. Her eyebrows lift, pleased that I used her name. She tucks the picture into her wallet like a prize. "Because Mark thinks you deserve honesty," she says, enjoying every syllable. I notice the envelope before she pushes it forward. Thick official corner bent, my name printed in black. She taps it with one manicured nail, rhythmic and smug. "Your marriage is finally catching up with reality," she murmurs. That envelope weighs more than the entire table between us. I do not touch it yet, I keep distance. Touching it means accepting that this is real today. "Mark could have brought this himself," I remind her quietly. "He tried," she shrugs, bracelet sliding down her wrist. "He thought you might scream less at another woman." I almost laugh because screaming would feel like relief. Instead, I pull out the chair and sit, spine locked. "I am not screaming," I answer, which disappoints her. She wants me unhinged, loud, humiliated in public view. Calm feels like my last weapon, thin but sharp. She lowers herself into the opposite chair, careful and slow. Her free hand presses against her stomach, testing movement. "He was so happy when we heard the heartbeat," she says. The way she says we slices through my chest. She watches my face, hungry for flinches, counting each twitch. I picture Mark in some dark room, holding headphones. His head bent, eyes wet, listening to a tiny thump. I am not there in that image, not invited. That absence stings harder than the paperwork on the table. Back then I still thought pain had a limit. Jenna leans forward, elbow near the envelope, voice low. "He always wanted a son, you know that," her eyes glitter. "He told me he finally feels complete, like a real man." Each new word tightens around my ribs like a strap. I wonder when exactly I stopped being part of his story. I pick up the envelope at last, fingers stiff, jaw clenched. Court header, case number, my married name in bold type. Inside will be signatures, options, terms, neat legal sentences. I do not open it, not in front of her. Some humiliations deserve privacy, even when it comes late. "You dragged this out long enough," she adjusts her shirt. "Mark wants peace before the baby comes," her hand circles slowly. "Peace," she says it like I am the war. "You will sign, Claire, you will let him move on." Her certainty leaves barely any air on my side. I study her for the first time since arriving here. Her skin looks stretched over her features, tight with effort. Sweat traces a faint line near her hairline, almost hidden. She is glowing, sure, but there is strain under it. I file it away, one small crack in her perfect glass. "Let me guess," I rest my palms against the table. "You wanted to be the one who told me everything." Her mouth twitches, then steadies into another practiced smile. "You deserve to see what you lost," she replies. She thinks this baby is proof that I failed. I want to ask when they started, how they started, why. The questions line up behind my teeth like broken glass. But that would pull me backward into months I survived. Right now, the only thing that matters is this moment. Her bump, his signature, my name on the envelope. "You called me here to gloat," I say finally. "Not just to deliver documents like a courier." Her nails drum against the table, sharp little hits. "Of course I did," she answers, almost laughing from delight. "I won, Claire. I am literally carrying proof right now." The word "won" does something strange in my chest. This is not a game, not for me at least. Still, I hear a crowd somewhere in my imagination. Jenna holding a trophy, me standing empty-handed beside her. I hate that my mind gives her that stage. I lean back, giving her a slow, careful once over. Her shoulders are pulled back too far, posture almost rigid. The gesture screams confidence, yet her fingers keep twitching. Careful with your victory lap, I say, eyes on her stomach. This track is longer than you think and full of corners. Her expression flickers just for a heartbeat, then recovers. You always talk like that, she waves a hand dismissively. Cryptic and bitter, like the world owes you something. She pushes the ultrasound from her wallet and sets it upright. The little grainy shape stares up at us like a witness. Do you think about him at night? She tilts her head. About the son you could not give him, her voice softens. False sympathy, too sweet, sticks in my throat like sugar. I swallow hard because I refuse to choke in front her. My hands curl into fists under the table, out of sight. I think about the man I actually married, I answer. The line lands between us, thin and sharp and honest. For a second her smile fades completely, exposing raw nerves. I see jealousy there, small and ugly, shining through. There are parts of him she will never touch. She recovers fast, lips curling again around some new barb. Well, he sleeps fine now, she says, rubbing her bump. Some men just need the right partner to unlock fatherhood. I almost bite through my cheek, anything to stay quiet. Every word out of her mouth begs for a reaction. A chair scrapes behind me, someone leaves the nearby table. Their eyes linger on us, catching the strain in the air. I feel their curiosity like pressure on the back of my neck. Strangers are building their own theories about us already. In their version, I probably deserved all of this. I shift slightly, blocking their view, reclaiming a fragment. If we are going to break apart, it will be ours. Does Mark know you invited me here today? I ask. She hesitates just a fraction, then nods with forced ease. He wanted closure, I added entertainment. I picture him sitting in his car, engine off. Phone in his lap, knowing exactly what she planned. Maybe he thinks I will cry, maybe it comforts him. If I crumble, it proves he mattered as much as I did. The thought makes my spine straighten, almost against my will. I will read this at home, I lift the envelope. I also pick up the ultrasound, my thumb on baby. Her eyes widen when she sees what I take. That is mine, she snaps, voice rising too loud. A couple turns to look, sensing the crack in her poise. Relax, I slide the picture back across the table. I do not want your proof, the word sticks. She snatches it, checks the surface for damage, lips tight. For a second I imagine a line of tiny fingerprints. Somewhere deep inside me a feeling shifts, darker and colder. From this distance I notice how she touches her stomach now. The earlier confident circles vanish, replaced by light, quick taps. Her gaze dips down every few seconds, searching for reassurance. Under all the bragging there is a thread of dread. I do not understand it yet, but I see it. You should start signing things quickly, she says, quieter. Stress is not good for the baby, her voice thins. Her breath comes shorter now, not just from weight. She glances at the clock like time has teeth today. Behind the arrogance, something else is nipping at her heels. I stand, chair scraping, decision settling in my bones. I will talk to my lawyer, I tell her, calm again. This is between me and Mark, not you. Her face tightens like I pulled a rug from under her. She hates being sidelined more than she hates me. As I turn to leave, her fingers clamp around my wrist. Her grip is stronger than I expect, almost desperate. Just remember this moment when you sign, she hisses. You walked away from the only child he will ever have. Her eyes burn with triumph that already looks fragile. For a heartbeat I imagine that child alive and loud. Mark holding him, Jenna radiant, me erased from all stories. The image stabs, then fades, then leaves a strange emptiness. I pull my hand free and step back, heart pounding. None of us understands yet what that baby will really cost. I do not answer her, not one more word. I walk out with the envelope pressed hard to my side. My pulse throbs in my ears like a warning siren. Every step feels loaded, like I am crossing some unseen line. Behind me she sits very still, both hands on her stomach. The packet hits my counter so hard a fork jumps. My phone buzzes at the same time, Mark's name flashing. I press my hand on the papers to steady them. The whole house feels tilted around that stack of legal choices. I stare at his name and decide how cruel I want to be. The first call dies out while I watch the screen. He tries again almost immediately, more impatient this time. I swipe to answer and lift the phone halfway. For a second, I think about hanging up without speaking. Habit wins before pride can reach the finish line. So you met her, his voice comes out rough. No hello, no apology, no gentle warm-up for disaster. You knew she would reach out, I answer, keeping it flat. I open the packet with my free hand, fingers stiff. Paper cuts my thumb and I welcome the sting. I asked her to contact you, not ambush you. Zumbai. ZK ground noise filters through, fabric rustling, distant footsteps. She enjoys an ambush, I tell him, eyes on the header. My name sits under his like, a problem he wants solved. Mission accomplished, by the way, she had fun out there. He draws in a breath I hear through the speaker. I hoped you two could be civil for 1 hour. The words scrape something raw inside my chest, old frustration. Civil, I let out a short laugh I do not feel. You sent your pregnant affair partner to deliver my divorce. Silence stretches long enough that I think he hung up. I flip a page and stop at a highlighted paragraph. She was supposed to just drop everything and leave, he mutters. You know how she is when she feels challenged. He still protects her even when it costs me more. You gave her my schedule, my number, and my life. My thumb rests on a line about property distribution and debt. You do not get to act surprised, she showed off. Another quiet pause, like he is counting his mistakes. There are things you and I still need to discuss. He starts listing topics like he is reading a memo. House valuation, joint account, some retirement thing I never track. I watch my fingerprint blooming red on the paper edge. Not on the phone, I cut in, voice hard now. If you want to talk, you stand on my porch. Inside would be easier, his voice softens in practiced ways. I am not stepping into that house alone with you. That choice hits him harder than anything else I said. It tells him I fear what I might forgive if he enters. Fine, tonight, he answers like the time is non-negotiable. I end the call without goodbye, then wipe my thumb. A tiny red smear marks the margin near his signature. For a second I consider leaving it there like evidence. Instead I fold the sheet and place it on top. Too neat, too controlled, nothing like how I actually feel. The porch light flicks on when his car pulls up later. He moves slower than usual, shoulders rounded, step unsteady. There is no ring on his hand, that detail jumps out. He keeps glancing at the windows, checking for an audience. For once, he looks like the one walking into danger. He stops a few feet away, hands empty, pockets stuffed. No flowers, no gifts, no peace offerings he can wave. Thanks for letting me come over, his voice tries for steady. I did not, I answer, leaning on the doorframe between us. I let you stop on my steps, that is different. His mouth twitches like he wants to protest and thinks better. Can I at least review what you received? He nods toward inside. I step out and close the door behind me, lock clicking. The papers sit under my arm, barrier pressed against my ribs. He notices the lock and flinches like it slapped him. We sit on the top step, distance measured in wood slats. I flatten the packet between us and flip to the first page. He points at lines like we are planning a vacation, not endings. This part covers support, this part handles the mortgage exit. My gaze drifts past his hand to a paragraph in the middle. There is a clause about medical coverage for dependents. Someone has scribbled a note referencing prenatal care and delivery. Why is that already in here? I ask, tapping the margin. They worked fast, he answers, eyes dropping to his shoes. Insurance needed proof of conception date, office sent confirmation forms. He avoids my stare and it tells me plenty by itself. How many appointments have you gone to? I push, voice even. His jaw works like he is chewing on rocks before answering. A few, we had a long visit this morning. The word long sits heavy between us with all its hidden weight. He shifts forward and presses his palms against his knees. Her numbers were off, they want extra monitoring and rest. He tosses the information out casually, but his foot bounces. What does off mean exactly? I ask, because vagueness never helped anyone. I know he expects me to drop it, go quiet, keep distance. They are watching her pressure, he finally looks up at me. They mentioned risk for seizures and early delivery if it spikes. My stomach twists around the clinical terms, unfamiliar but menacing. Is the kid in danger now, or just maybe later? He shrugs one shoulder, a useless little movement that infuriates me. They acted concerned but not panicked. His voice cracks on concerned. They asked about stress levels at home and at work. Images flash through my mind without permission, sharp and quick. Jenna stirring up drama in coffee shops and online comments. Jenna throwing his name around for attention whenever she feels ignored. My phone vibrates on the other side of the door. We both hear it through the wood, short, persistent bursts. He digs his own device from his pocket and checks the screen. It is her. His fingers hover over answer like they burn. He moves down a step and turns away, but sound travels. I am here. His voice drops low, words clipped intense. There is a pause, then an audible rush of noise from her. He murmurs questions about headaches, vision, pain, and her side. I catch phrases like go lie down and no, not again. The porch suddenly feels smaller, like her fear is leaking into my space. He paces while he listens, sneakers thudding against the wood. At one point he stops and presses his forehead against the railing. Then we go back to night. I do not care about the time. His knuckles turn pale around the phone, joints straining with pressure. I look away because his panic does something strange inside my chest. He ends the call and stays facing the yard for a moment. When he turns back, his face looks older by several years. They want her to monitor movement and keep track of symptoms. He swallows hard and forces a calmer tone that does not stick. I might need to leave soon if things escalate. There it is, the request he did not quite dare voice. He is asking me silently for understanding and permission to run. I should feel nothing except anger. That would be clean. Instead, I feel a complicated mix I barely recognize as pity. Compassion used to be automatic with him, and I hate that memory. You can go whenever you want. I tuck the packet closer. These papers will still exist if your schedule changes. His gaze drops to my hand, clutching the manila edge. I never wanted to drag you into their health stuff. He stops there, like saying more would be betrayal in some direction. Too late. My voice sounds almost calm even to me. She dragged me into it over coffee. You handed her rope. He jolts like I hit him in the chest with that. I did not realize she would treat you like an enemy. He looks genuinely stunned by his own miscalculation, which terrifies me. He always believed he could manage everyone's emotions if he tried hard. Now he is watching his little arrangement spin out of his hands. I will review the rest with my attorney, I tell him. I am not signing anything on a staircase between crisis calls. The list of things I will never do for him grows. He nods slowly, blinking like he just woke from a long nap. There is a line near the end about her and the kid. He flips pages with shaky fingers until he finds what he wants. Guardianship, future planning, stuff we probably should at least acknowledge. My eyes land on the phrase unborn minor and stay there. They have already drawn a map for a person not born yet. Accounts care in case of death, access if one parent is gone. The language is detached and tidy, more than any of us are. Interesting how you plan decades around someone who has never breathed. I do not hide the edge in my tone and he feels it. I am trying to be responsible now. He grips the papers tighter. Trying to not repeat all the ways I failed before. The word before lands heavy between us, loaded with everything unspoken. I stand up because sitting still with that word feels impossible. Movement is the only thing that stops me from yelling. You can rewrite your narrative all you want. I look past him. Just do it without dragging me through every draft. My front yard blurs into meaningless shapes that I refuse to name. I do not trust my eyes right now, only my spine. He follows my gaze like he might find forgiveness somewhere out there. The phone in his hand lights up again, same caller. A short text preview flashes, enough for me to catch chunks. Head pounding, hands puffy, think something is wrong. He goes pale, reading it twice before lifting his eyes. I need to drive back now. I open the door behind me and step inside halfway. You have other priorities than discussing who gets which bill. He hesitates like he wants to cross the threshold despite everything. I will keep you updated, he blurts as if I requested that. I do not answer, which is louder than any refusal. When his car pulls away, the house feels off balance again. I drop the packet on the table and pull my laptop close. The cursor blinks in the search bar, waiting for instructions. I type out the name of the condition the doctor mentioned. A wall of terms and risk charts floods the screen. I scroll through bullet points about seizures, organ damage, emergency delivery. Words like stroke and fatal flash past faster than my brain processes. I imagine Jenna hearing this in an exam room with bright lighting. I imagine her nodding bravely while squeezing his hand for comfort. The picture twists my stomach even more than the medical facts. A line near the bottom talks about grief rates after infant loss. Not just for mothers, for partners, for ex-partners who watch from outside. I slam the laptop shut and push the chair back hard. My breathing comes shallow and fast, like I ran without moving. I tell myself none of this is my responsibility yet. My phone chimes with a new notification, pulling me back. A group chat lights up with a screenshot from social media. Jenna poses in some mirror, hand on her rounded belly. Caption boasts about handling stress like a queen and raising a warrior. Underneath, she adds a line about jealous exes not winning. My chest tightens at that last part more than I want. She is still turning my existence into a running punchline. Comments pour in with hearts and fire emojis and admiration. No one sees the text mark just got about swelling and pain. No one sees him on a staircase shaking. I toss the phone onto the couch and sink down beside it. For a moment, I let myself imagine everything going wrong for them. Hospital corridors, silent rooms, empty nursery, 2 devastated people. The thought comes fast and dark, then shame hits even faster. I cover my face because I barely recognize myself. I never wanted harm for a child, any child, not once. Yet some wounded piece of me whispers that a loss might balance things. That if their perfect story fractured, mine would hurt less. I hate that voice. I hate that it sounds like survival. I sit there until my legs go numb, arguing with a part of myself. Days blur into each other, anchored only by small updates. Short messages from Mark surface on my phone like drifting debris. They adjusted her meds. Baby's growth looks okay for now. She is supposed to avoid drama and rest more. I do not answer any of them, though I read every word. Each new line builds a picture of a household stretched thin. Not the fairy tale she advertised everywhere, something much more brittle. He stops adding details after a while and just sends single emojis. Thumbs up, prayer hands, little faces that look more like pleading. My own meeting with the attorney lands on a Thursday. We go through the packet line by line, point by point. Every decision is another thread cut from a life I built. Do you want to fight for the house? The attorney asks. I shake my head before the question even finishes. I want this over more than I want furniture or walls. My voice comes out steady enough to surprise me. What I care about is one clause near the end. I tap the section that mentions future offspring and visitation. I need my name untangled from any plans involving their child. We work on wording that separates me completely from those provisions. No automatic responsibilities if something happens, no shared decisions. I am not going to be the emergency contact when they crumble. It feels harsh and reasonable at the same time, a strange mix. This is the first line I draw with only myself in mind. On the way out of the building, my phone lights again. A message from an unknown number pops up on the screen. Please tell your friend to stop commenting under my posts, it reads. I recognize the tone before I recognize the number, Jenna. She follows with another text before I even react. You started this by playing victim. I am done being polite. My jaw tightens as I scroll through her rapid-fire complaints. Apparently someone from my side called her a homewrecker online. She accuses me of sending trolls to harass a pregnant woman. My fingers hover above the keyboard while my pulse spikes. I type, then erase, then type again with slower precision. I did not send anyone to your page, I answer. Ask your boyfriend how many people know the full story. I hit send before I can soften it and instantly regret nothing. Her reply arrives almost immediately, full of rage and panic mixed. You are stressing me out on purpose. If anything happens, it is on you. My vision tunnels for a second as I read that line. She is not just blaming me for the marriage ending anymore. She is now assigning me a share of risk over her pregnancy. The accusation lands on top of my guilt and sticks. I block the number before I can see what she types next. The quiet that follows feels heavier than the barrage of messages. I stand in the parking lot, gripping my phone like a lifeline. A car alarm goes off nearby and makes me flinch hard. Every sound feels like a warning bell I cannot decode yet. That night I lie awake listening to nothing and everything. I picture her lying in bed counting kicks and counting enemies. I picture him checking her breathing and his unread messages from me. There are too many scenes in my head and none are mine. I realize I am haunted by a family that does not exist yet. If I had known then how that story would end. How every warning sign would eventually connect in one brutal day. Maybe I would have answered some calls differently or not at all. Maybe I would have hardened faster or slower or not enough. Back then all I knew was this: the ground had started to crack. The pounding on my door yanked me upright before dawn. It came fast and uneven, not polite, not patient. By the third hit I knew who it was. Only one person still behaved like my threshold belonged to him. I grabbed my phone and keys in the same movement. When I opened the door, he almost fell inside. Hair flattened with sweat, shirt half buttoned, eyes blown wide. She cannot catch her breath, his chest heaved with every word. They told us to come in right away and her car will not start. He reached for me like the old days were still alive. I stepped back so he did not touch me. You have a phone, call for help if it is that bad. They said drive if we can move quick enough. His fingers dug into his own palms instead of my arm. I would not be here if I had another option. The part of me that remembered our history wanted to slam the door. Another part heard the shake in his voice and stalled. Where is she? I asked, already hating myself for the question. In the back seat. She will not stop grabbing her side. He jerked his head toward the curb like the car might vanish. I locked the door behind me and walked past him. The car idled under the streetlight, engine humming louder than usual. Through the window I could make out her hunched shape. One hand braced on the door, the other clutching under her ribs. Her face was wet and furious, and something else I recognized as panic. The moment she saw me outside, she tried to straighten. You brought her, she snapped at him, voice shredded from crying. I told you I did not want her near me. Another twist of pain hit and cut the rest of the sentence. She doubled over, knuckles whitening on the door handle. You can fight about me after you both survive. The words came out before I decided to be involved. Right now you get in or you wait for an ambulance. Another tight gasp tore through her and shut her up. She slid over while I climbed behind the wheel. The hospital sat across town past 3 long intersections. Every red light felt designed to provoke a meltdown. Run it, she pressed her head against the window and squeezed her eyes shut. You want us to die before we get there? I asked. I just want this hurting to stop, she whispered into the glass. Her breathing sounded shallow and too rapid for my comfort. I remembered every search result from that late-night spiral. Headache, swelling, organ failure, words I never expected to apply here. How long has this been going on? I asked, watching the road. She hesitated just long enough to answer the question by itself. A while, she swallowed and shifted, trying to find a position. They kept changing pills and telling me to relax. Relax, that word again, always thrown at any woman in trouble. When did you last talk to them? I pressed, knuckles stiff on the wheel. Yesterday. They want me back today if things got worse. From the rear seat came the rustle of fabric and paper. He read discharge instructions aloud under his breath, voice breaking. Call immediately if pain increases or baby slows down. He lifted his eyes to the rearview mirror and met mine. I do not think he is moving like usual. I flicked my gaze back to the road before something showed. Can you feel anything at all? I asked her. She shifted her palm across her stomach in small circles. I am not sure. Everything hurts, everything feels wrong. Her words drove deeper than any medical term could have. We pulled into the entrance with tires squealing slightly on the turn. He jumped out before we stopped, waving toward the doors. A staff member at the entrance grabbed a chair and rushed over. How far along? The worker asked, already steering her inside. 3rd trimester, he answered, voice shaking with each syllable. I parked wherever the car rolled to a stop and followed. No one told me to leave, so I kept moving. Inside, they slid a band on her wrist and pushed through doors. Family only, someone murmured as they tried to swing them shut. He threw a look over his shoulder that kept them from blocking me. We ended up in a small treatment space separated by curtains. They lifted her shirt without ceremony and placed gel on her skin. A device glided back and forth as they searched for rhythm. The room quieted while everyone strained to hear a pattern. My own pulse roared so loud I almost missed it. There it was, a faint, quick thudding under the static. The entire team let out a breath at the same time. "Fetal heartbeat present but under observation," one of them murmured. They adjusted equipment and started checking her numbers again. I caught each fragment and stored it like it might matter later. They asked her questions about food, swelling, pain scale. Her answers came uneven between clenched teeth and sharp sighs. When they finished, one turned to him with a clipboard. "Any major changes in mood at home recently?" His eyes flicked to me, then back to the form. "She has been under a lot of pressure from online stuff." His hands twisted together while he spoke. "Arguing with strangers, losing sleep, things like that." I knew exactly which posts he meant without needing names. My stomach sank as I realized where the blame would land. One of the staff glanced at her chart and frowned. "You need a quiet environment, no arguments, no stressors." The word stressors hung in the air like a charge. "I did not start this mess," she snapped, voice rising again. "His ex keeps stirring things up and everyone piles on me." Several pairs of eyes shifted to me almost in unison. She pointed straight in my direction despite the monitors attached. "This is her, she is the one who will not disappear." Heat shot up my neck and across my face at once. I watched judgment form on complete strangers who knew nothing yet. "I have not contacted you since you texted me that threat." My voice sounded calm to my own ears, which shocked me. Her eyes filled with hot tears that blurred her eyeliner. "You blocked me and then let your little fans go wild." Her breathing hitched and the machine displayed the change immediately. One of the nurses stepped between us with a raised hand. "We are not sorting social problems with machines on." She leaned over the bed and spoke more gently to Jenna. "You and the baby come first, everyone else is background noise." The words were kind, but the look thrown at me was not. They decided to move her to a birthing unit for observation. I followed as far as the double doors before someone stopped me. "Visitors limited, partner only right now." A badge was clipped onto his shirt and the doors opened. He paused on the threshold, glancing back in a way that hurt. "Can you stay out here until we know more?" His hand hovered near my elbow, then dropped. "If something goes wrong, I do not want to be alone." There it was, the old expectation pushing through the new reality. I nodded before my better judgment could formulate a refusal. The waiting zone was crowded with people clutching bags and cups. I took a seat near the wall where I could see the elevator. Time stretched and warped in that space, marked only by footsteps. My mind kept skipping back to that scared look on her face. For all her taunting, she truly believed she might lose everything. An overhead announcement crackled words I did not catch. A pair of staff rushed past with equipment, urgency in every movement. I watched them disappear around a corner leading to her floor. My chest tightened until breathing felt like work instead of habit. Every few seconds I checked my phone, even with no buzz. A couple across from me argued in whispers about names. Every mention of son made my throat feel raw. I dug my nails into my palm under my sleeve. If anyone looked closely, they would see half moons on my skin. It felt better than letting my thoughts run wild. The elevator doors finally opened and he stepped out. His shoulders slumped, but he was not completely destroyed. He walked over slowly as if each step carried extra weight. "They are keeping her overnight, they want to run repeated tests." He dropped onto the chair beside me and rubbed his face. "Is the baby okay right now?" I leaned forward without realizing. He exhaled hard before answering, like he needed permission to speak. "They think so," the numbers settled after they adjusted some stuff. His voice shook on the last word, giving away more than he meant. But they used phrases like high risk and possible early removal. We sat there side by side, listening to other people's joys. Laughter from one direction, crying from another, a strange mix. "She keeps asking if he will hate her if he comes early." He stared at his hands like they held answers. "She thinks she ruined his life already, and he is not born." A bitter laugh almost escaped me before I caught it. She who flaunted her miracle now feared rejection from it. That is not how kids work, I said quietly. He turned his head, searching my face for some kind of wisdom. You sure about that? He asked, eyes doubtful and tired. I remembered promises we once made about being different parents. How we swore we would never weaponize guilt or affection. We broke so many vows long before a child appeared. No one starts out wanting to hurt their kid, I answered. People just bleed all over whoever is nearest when they are scared. He let that sit for a while, then nodded slowly. I am trying to fix things, he murmured, voice almost gone. I wonder if I already crossed the line past fixing. It was the first time he truly sounded unsure of himself. That uncertainty scared me more than his usual arrogance ever had. A staff member called his name from the doorway with a clipboard. He jumped up, half-turned to me, then looked toward the hall. They need more information for the chart, the staff member explained. He followed them, leaving me alone with buzzing and footsteps. Somewhere above us, monitors continued to track two fragile lives. I almost left then, keys in my hand, escape route clear. Nobody had asked me to sign in or stay. I could have walked out and pretended this never happened. Instead, I stood and moved toward the elevator button. Curiosity and dread pushed my thumb down at the same time. On her floor, the air felt heavier, though nothing visible changed. A worker at the desk glanced up as I approached. You family? They asked, already reaching for a clipboard. The word snagged in my throat before I could answer. I shook my head and stepped back, keeping my distance. Through a gap in the door down the hall, I saw him. He sat beside her bed with his head bent low. She lay turned toward the monitor, eyes fixed on the screen. Her hand gripped the blanket so hard her arm shook. Whatever illusion of winning she once had was gone. I should have walked away from that doorway and never looked back. Instead, I watched long enough to catch one small exchange. Her lips moved around one question that struck me harder than insults. What if something happens to him and you cannot forgive me? He reached for her fingers and held on like that answer scared him too. I backed away before they could notice me standing there. Their pain felt too intimate for me to witness any longer. On the ride down, the elevator hummed and my reflection stared. I barely recognized the expression on my own face. Pity and resentment sat there together, wrestling for space. At the main entrance, I stopped by the automatic doors. Cold air leaked in around the frame and hit my arms. I imagined them upstairs, trapped in that room with machines. I imagined a future where the story ended right here. Where the scare forced them to change and everyone walked away intact. That alternate version never happened. This night became a rehearsal, not a conclusion. Later, when the real emergency came, there was no time for observation. No slow beeping that settled back into something stable. Only a sudden drop, a rush, and a loss none of us could bargain with. The ringtone drilled through the dark and yanked me awake. I grabbed the phone on instinct and almost dropped it. On the screen, his name flashed in frantic bursts. I thought about letting it ring out just once. Then I heard the voicemail start and hit accept. Noise came first, not words, just harsh breathing. Emergency room, obstetrics, get here now, his voice shredded on now. Behind him I caught shouting and a rolling clatter. Is she alive? The question slipped out before I could stop it. They are rushing her to surgery and I cannot go in. I was already out of bed before the call ended. Keys, shoes, bag, everything in random sequence. My heart thumped so hard it messed with my balance. This time there was no debate about showing up. Curiosity was gone, only something heavier stayed. The drive felt shorter than it should have that hour. Empty intersections, long stretches of nothing, my jaw locked tight. My brain kept looping his word surgery like a siren. I replayed every ugly thing she had thrown at me. None of it helped when I pictured her on a table. He stood outside the main doors, pacing fast. When I parked, he rushed over and yanked my door open. She collapsed in the hallway at home, his face looked carved. They kept asking when her head started pounding, and she never told them. He grabbed his own hair like he wanted to tear it out. Where is she now? I shut the car off with stiff fingers. They took her upstairs for an emergency delivery and something else. He shook his head like the terms refused to settle. They mentioned her organs and blood, and I stopped understanding. That last part came out on a ragged breath. We went through the entrance together without touching. At the desk, he choked out her full information. They handed him a laminated card with a room number. Family waits down there, the worker pointed toward a corridor. No one asked who I was, they just moved to the next crisis. We reached a little area with scattered chairs and a machine. He could not sit, he kept walking tight circles. She woke me up clawing at her chest, his hands mimicked it. I almost called an ambulance and she begged me not to. He leaned against the wall like his knees might cave. They said she missed signs, he stared at the floor tiles. Vision going weird, fingers puffing, head splitting for hours. My mind flicked back to her texts about being tired and annoyed. Did she tell you about any of that? I focused on him. If she had, would you have believed it was serious? He looked up at me with eyes that had nothing left. Probably not at first, the honesty hurt more than a lie. I would have said she was overreacting again. His voice cracked on again and he turned away. For once he was not defending her or himself. A double door near us swung and a gurney passed. I saw a flash of her face under a mask, chalky and slack. Her hair stuck to her forehead, eyelids barely open. One wrist rested on her belly out of pure habit. A nurse jogged beside them, pressing something against her arm. That is her, he lunged forward then stopped at the tape. Sir, you stay outside this line, the nurse did not slow. We will update you as soon as we stabilize both. Both, the word made my stomach lurch in place. I stood still while he reached for air that was not there. They vanished through another doorway and the hall fell quiet. He turned back toward me with his hands shaking. I should have forced her here yesterday, he pressed his forehead to the wall. She said she felt better and I let it go. He hit the wall once with his fist, not hard enough to break skin. Regret will not change what happens next, my voice sounded blunt. You pay attention now, you answer whatever they ask. He nodded even though he clearly heard only half my words. Fear occupied most of his mind and left scraps for logic. I remembered him confident and calm, and hated that version more. Minutes stretched into something uglier than boredom. Every movement in the corridor made him jerk his head. Once he tried to joke about the vending machine prices. The laugh died before it fully formed on his face. We slid back into silence that scraped like sandpaper. After what felt like an entire day, a surgeon walked over. Mask hanging at her throat, shoulders stiff, eyes heavy. Are you the partner? She focused on him first. He stepped forward so fast his shoes squeaked on the floor. I stood behind him and watched his spine. We had to operate quickly to stop internal damage. Her tone was flat and careful, each phrase measured. She lost a significant amount of blood, but we controlled it. He made a sound that was not quite relief. Can I see her? Is the baby okay? The pause between his questions told me everything before she spoke. Her gaze dropped for a second, then lifted back. We could not resuscitate your son. I felt the entire hallway tilt beneath us. He showed no response after several attempts and time ran out. He did not cry at first, that shocked me. He just stared straight ahead like his mind refused translation. No, it came out small, almost like a child. Check again, try again, you have equipment, use it. He dragged in air like it weighed 100 pounds. The surgeon did not move closer, she gave him distance. We followed protocol, he had no heartbeat despite full measures. She swallowed and shifted her weight, clearly used to this moment. You can hold him if you want to, not yet, after we finish with her. The offer hung there like a door he could not walk through. He backed up until his knees hit a chair and dropped into it. Both hands covered his face, elbows on his thighs. His shoulders started to tremble, slow at first then harder. The sound that came out of him barely counted as human. Watching him break like that scraped across old injuries inside me. The surgeon turned her attention to me for the first time. You are with him, her tone made it an assumption. I opened my mouth to correct her and shut it again. Make sure he does not drive alone after this. Then she left, already needed by someone else. I sat beside him but did not touch his arm. He rocked slightly like he was trying to shake off reality. They told me he was fine 2 days ago. His voice came out hoarse between gasps. They printed charts and pointed at growth, and I believed them. I could have reminded him that no one promised anything. That every appointment came with quiet warnings he ignored. Instead, I asked the question that would not leave my mouth. Do you want me to stay until you can see her? He dropped his hands and looked at me like he just remembered who I was. You should go, you never wanted to be part of this. The words were tired, not cruel, just wrecked. I cannot ask you to watch the rest. He tried to stand and stumbled, catching the arm of the chair. His legs did not seem quite connected to his body. I stood too and blocked his path to the exit. You are in no state to drive anywhere. He clenched his jaw like he wanted to argue on principle. The only place I am going is her room. The determination in his eyes looked dangerous without support. Then I walk you there and I wait outside. I did not know why I decided that, just did. Maybe because I remembered sitting alone after bad news once. Maybe because part of me wanted to see how far this fallout would reach. He nodded because refusing help meant risking collapse. A staff member guided us toward recovery when we asked. We stopped at a doorway where machines beeped in irregular patterns. She is sedated but conscious off and on. The worker lowered their voice as if Jenna might absorb tone. She already asked about the bee. Abai, we have not given details. You want me to go in with you? The question sounded wrong even as I asked it. He stared at the half-open door like it hid a monster. Let me try alone first. His fingers dug into his palms again. If she sees you, she might explode, and she cannot take that. He slipped inside and pulled the door mostly shut behind him. I stayed in the hallway staring at a spot on the floor. Noise leaked through the gap, shapes but not complete words. His voice low, her voice high and broken. Then a sudden sharp shout that punched right through the panel. Get her out of my life. Her words were clear enough to carry down the hall. Everything started falling apart when she would not disappear. The blame hit me even without eye contact. Staff walked by pretending they heard nothing, a practiced skill. I stepped closer but not close enough to be seen. Inside, I heard him trying to calm her breathing. Focus on you, do not do this right now. She sobbed and something banged against the rail. You think I do not know why this happened? The door jerked open and her face appeared pale and wild. Her eyes locked on me like she expected me waiting there. There you are, her voice scraped across my nerves. You cursed my child from the moment you lost yours. Spit clung to her lip as she pointed a shaking hand. A nurse rushed to her side and urged her back. Your pressure is spiking again, lie down, breathe. Jenna dragged air in, then out in uneven pulls. You think this is coincidence, she rasped, still focused on me. You walked into our lives and now he is in a drawer. The word drawer made my stomach lurch hard. I had seen those tiny storage spaces on medical shows. I never imagined anyone would link my name to one. If you need someone to hate, fine, pick me. I forced the words out slowly so they did not wobble. But do not pretend I wrote your lab results. Her eyes filled with a different kind of fury at that. You argued with me, you let people swarm me, you stressed me out. Her chest rose and fell faster, alarms jumping on the screen. If I had been peaceful, my son would be screaming right now. The nurse snapped her attention from me back to the equipment. She needs quiet, both of you step out now. They gave Jenna a dose through the IV and adjusted settings. Her limbs relaxed gradually, though her gaze remained locked on me. I watched loathing stay even as consciousness slipped. Outside the room he leaned against the wall and sagged. You should not have come up here, he rubbed his temples. She is lashing out at whoever stands closest. He sounded drained, not protective of her this time. I know that pattern too well from another life. I folded my arms to keep my hands from shaking. She thinks grief gets to choose a villain, so she picked me. He let out a jagged breath that could have been a laugh. She refuses to blame her own body or the doctors or me. He slid down the wall until he sat on the floor. For a second, I considered sitting with him again. Old muscle memory tugged hard, but something else tugged harder. You handle her, you face what you built. He looked up fast, eyes red and wet. Are you walking away now like this? From that room, not from the paperwork. The distinction surprised even me as it left my mouth. This loss does not erase what you did to me. I kept my tone low so it did not carry. Pain or not, some truth stayed unchanged. I did not want him gone, his voice cracked on him. The word hung between us, a ghost with no weight. I know, I believed that much, which complicated everything. You wanted a baby to redeem you, not destroy anyone. He flinched like I had named his secret out loud. A staff member approached with cautious steps, glancing at both of us. They are preparing the viewing room if you choose to visit. The phrase made my skin crawl and I looked away. He wiped his cheeks with his sleeve and tried to stand straight. I will go alone, he said quietly and walked after them. I stayed where I was and stared at the closed door. Part of me wanted to see the boy they lost. Another part knew that image would live in my head forever. I chose self-preservation for once and turned toward the elevator. My footsteps echoed down the hall like I was leaving a crime scene. On the ground level, I stepped outside and sucked in air. Morning had crept up while we were trapped upstairs. People walked dogs and carried coffee with no idea. I leaned on the railing and tried to slow my breathing. A tiny bird landed near my shoe and jerked its head. When I finally looked up, he stood at the entrance watching me. His face was wiped clean, no tears left. We held him, his voice came out thin and flat. He was smaller than I expected and too still. He stared past me at nothing, eyes unfocused. She asked me 3 times if he would wake up. He rubbed his thumb against his forefinger, like he still felt skin. I kept telling her no, and she kept asking anyway. That loop would live with him longer than any argument with me. In that moment, I almost pitied him more than I hated him. This cost you more than you imagine when you chased her. I did not soften the sentence, there was no way to. He nodded once, sharp and miserable. I thought a baby would prove I was not broken. He looked at me then, finally really looked. Turns out I was wrong on every level. The admission hung there raw and late. I did not rush to comfort him this time. They will both want someone to blame when the numbness fades. I straightened and took a step back from him. They already picked you, his gaze drifted toward the upper floors. But I know part of that belongs to me. Hearing him own even a slice of responsibility startled me. It did not fix anything, yet it shifted something inside. This was the moment I understood that his fantasy had died too. I turned toward my car without promising anything about tomorrow. No hug, no plan, no shared grief schedule. Behind me, the hospital loomed with its own secrets. Inside that building, a woman blamed me for losing her child. Outside, I finally realized I would not let that blame stick forever. The first shovel of dirt hit the tiny coffin. The sound snapped through the quiet and froze my spine. Jenna's mother swayed near the grave, clutching her arm. Jenna stood stiff at the front, chin lifted too high. I stayed back under a tree and waited for the explosion. Mark faced the hole without blinking, hands locked together. His jaw moved like he was chewing something that would not go down. At one point, he glanced sideways toward the crowd behind him. His eyes brushed past me, then jerked back for a second longer. That tiny hesitation told me he still expected something from me. The efficient's words washed over everyone in soft, practiced phrases. I tracked reactions instead, not the speech. Every mention of beloved son made Jenna's shoulders jerk. When family came up, several people turned and stared my way. They did not know where to place me in this story. When the service ended, people lined up to hug the parents. I watched strangers wrap their arms around Jenna and whisper comfort. She nodded at some, clung to others, eyes glassy and wild. Each touch seemed to scrape her already raw skin thinner. I felt the moment she spotted me, even before she moved. She broke away from the last embrace and headed straight over. Her steps were uneven, careful, like the ground might give way. Someone reached to steady her and got shrugged off. She stopped in front of me, breathing fast through her nose. For a heartbeat, we just stared at each other, nothing polite left. "You can leave now," her voice came out hoarse and sharp. "You got what you wanted, he is gone." People nearby shifted closer, sensing drama like animals smell weather. I swallowed the first cruel answer that rose in my throat. I knew anything I said here would feed her for years. I came because he asked. I kept my hands at my sides. No one wanted this, not you, not him, not me. Her eyes flashed at the last part like a match catching. "You wanted me punished." She took a step closer, almost trembling. "Well, congratulations, the universe listened to you, not me." Mark appeared between us before I could respond. One arm lifted slightly, blocking her path toward me. "Enough," his voice cut through the murmurs around us. "This is not about her today." He did not look back. He looked only at Jenna, and his face was empty. She let out a bitter laugh that made people flinch. "Of course you protect her even at our child's funeral." Her fingers twisted in the fabric of his sleeve, desperate and furious. If you had just cut her off sooner, he would be alive. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see who he chose. He pried her grip loose, one finger at a time. No one in the cemetery killed our son. The word "our" landed heavy, and she jerked like it hurt. You blame her because you cannot stand what you did not control. He finally turned toward me then, and his eyes were wrecked. For a second, I thought about stepping in with some soft phrase. That reflex was still there, the old urge to smooth. I forced my heels into the grass and stayed silent. If I rescued him again, nothing would change after this hole. Let them both feel the weight they kept trying to hand me. A relative touched my elbow and pulled me aside gently. Maybe give them space, he murmured, glancing over my shoulder. They are raw, and you draw attention they cannot handle. He was not wrong, and he was also not kind. I moved further back while Jenna's voice climbed behind me. By the time I reached the cars, whispers had started. Snatches of conversation floated over from small clusters. That is the ex. She kept posting vague things online. They say the mistress had a break, though. WN during labor. I leaned against my door and let the words roll past. Gossip loves a villain, and I filled the outline easily. Every version of the story shifted depending on who told it. In none of them was I a person with my own grief. I was just the woman who refused to vanish on cue. Mark approached a few minutes later, tie loosened, shoulders slumped. He stopped an arm's length away, as if an invisible line ran between us. Thanks for not firing back at her. He scrubbed a hand over his face and looked around. She is on a ledge, and I do not know how to pull her off. You are not the only one on a ledge. The words surprised both of us as they came out. You dragged me here without warning about her mood. His gaze dropped to the gravel like it might offer answers. I did not know she would go after you in public. You knew she blames me for everything. I pushed off the car and faced him head on. You knew she thinks I cursed her pregnancy, her house, her life. He winced at the word cursed, like it confirmed his own fears. Part of me hoped the reality of today would reset her. This is her reset. I jerked my chin toward the grave. She has something new to worship and to weaponize. He flinched again, then straightened his back with visible effort. I am moving out for a while, he said it quietly, almost ashamed. I cannot breathe in that place right now, neither can she. That admission caught me off guard more than the funeral did. You are leaving her alone after this. I heard the judgment in my own tone and did not soften it. I am not abandoning her, I am stepping away so we do not kill each other. His voice flattened on the last words like he had rehearsed them. Where are you going? I folded my arms across my chest. A friend's spare room for now, maybe a motel after that. He looked past me at the road like it stretched forever. I need time before the court date, before we lock everything in. The word lock made the air feel tighter around us. Do not come to my house without calling. I met his eyes, so he knew I meant it. Grief does not make surprise visits acceptable. He nodded slowly, absorbing the boundary like something new. For the first time, he did not try to negotiate. Later that night, my phone lit up with a notification spike. A screenshot from a mutual contact filled the screen. Jenna had posted a long message to her followers. She never used my name, but everyone knew who she meant. Some women poison everything they touch, the caption read. The comments were even worse than the caption. People called me a witch, a bitter, barren monster. A few wished me hurt that matched hers in graphic detail. Others hinted that karma had already started its work. My hands shook as I scrolled, yet I could not stop. One comment stood out because it was different. Careful what you write, this looks like defamation. The account belonged to a coworker of mine, blunt and fearless. They tagged Jenna directly and mentioned hospital records and witnesses. Underneath, another person added, lawyers love screenshots. I closed the app and dialed my attorney with numb fingers. She picked up on the second ring, voice alert. I figured you might call after that circus, she sighed. Yes, we saw it, someone forwarded it to the office. I sank onto the couch and bit back the urge to cry. Can she get away with accusing me like that? I heard paper rustling on the other end as she checked something. Legally, grief explains behavior, it does not excuse false public claims. She paused, then continued with more measured precision. We document everything. You do not respond online, and we keep options open. Options like what? I stared at a crack in the wall. Like a formal notice to retract or a civil action later. She kept her tone level detached, exactly what I needed. For now, focus on the divorce. We separate financial ties first. The words financial ties sounded cold, but also strangely comforting. After the call ended, the silence in my place felt heavy. I paced the room, phone in my hand, unsure who to contact. Calling friends would turn this into another round of speculation. Calling my mother would invite opinions I did not want today. I stopped pacing only when a new message appeared. This time it was from Mark, short and clipped. I saw what she posted. I am sorry. Another followed almost immediately before I could answer. I told her to take it down. She refused. We fought. A final one arrived minutes later, just 4 words. I started looking for therapy. Out of everything that day, that last text stunned me. The man who once thought he could fix anything alone wanted help. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed itself. I typed 3 different replies and erased them all. In the end, I settled on one line, nothing fancy. Good, do the work. I hit send and tossed the phone onto a chair. There W. As no satisfaction in it, only exhaustion and a sliver of hope. Not hope for us, that version was buried now. Hope that his healing might eventually stop brushing against my scars. Days blurred, but the online firestorm did not die quickly. New threads popped up on different platforms, repeating the same accusations. Every time Jenna reposted, people grew bolder in their hate. They began tagging my job, my relatives, anyone connected. The digital pileup felt like standing under constant minor hail. My attorney forwarded a draft letter for Jenna's inbox. It used phrases like untrue statements and harm to reputation. Reading it made my pulse steady for the first time in weeks. The letter did not mention grief or sympathy or guilt. It mentioned evidence, timelines, and consequences if she continued. We sent it on a Tuesday afternoon, no fanfare. By evening, her longest rant had vanished from her page. No apology showed up, just a short new line. Taking a break from social media to heal privately. The comments begged her to stay, but she went quiet. Mark called that night not to complain but to update. She threw her phone at the wall when she read the letter. I heard a tired scrape in his voice instead of anger. They explained to her that screenshots last longer than rage. He let out a humorless huff, then went still. Are you still staying away from the house? I walked to the window without really seeing outside. Yeah, I am at my friend's place and started sessions this week. He hesitated, then added one more sentence. My counselor asked if I ever took responsibility without a villain. I leaned my forehead against the glass and closed my eyes. How did you answer? I told him no, not really, there was always someone to blame. He inhaled slowly, like the admission cost effort. I am trying to change that, even if it is late. You blaming yourself will not bring him back either. I listened to my own words echo down the line. Blame is easy, accountability is harder and quieter. He went quiet for a moment, then nodded audibly. I am not asking you to forgive anything, I just wanted you to know. When the court date for the final hearing finally approached, tension climbed. He texted about logistics, schedules, and what documents to bring. He did not mention Jenna until the night before. She will not attend, she says watching us finish hurts too much. That line hit me in a place I did not expect. Part of me had braced for her storming the courthouse. Instead, she retreated into whatever fortress she had left. I imagined her surrounded by unused baby items and shattered frames, holding onto objects that promised a life that never arrived. I wondered if she still pictured me as the witch in her story. The morning of the hearing, he waited outside the building. No tie this time, just a plain shirt and a folder. He handed me a thin stack of documents without preamble. Proof of counseling, proof of separate housing, proof I am dealing with things. He almost smiled, but it never reached his eyes. Why show me this? I flipped through the pages briefly. Because you once knew me better than anyone and I wrecked that. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. I wanted you to see I am not hiding behind excuses now. The honesty sat between us, rough and unfinished. Nothing you do now erases what already happened. I closed the folder and gave it back. but watching you own your part makes it easier to breathe." He swallowed hard and nodded, accepting the small mercy. We walked inside side by side, yet not together. After the judge signed off, everything felt strangely quiet. No dramatic speeches, just stamps and dates and instructions. Outside, he turned to me like there was more to say. Before he could speak, my phone buzzed in my hand. An unknown number flashed on the screen, tugging my attention away. I answered on reflex and heard ragged breathing. "You won." The voice was thin and shaking but familiar. It was Jenna calling from somewhere echoing and hushed. "You got your freedom, your clean hands, your safe life." There was a strange mix of accusation and envy in her tone. "I have paperwork, not peace," I answered, keeping my tone low. "Why are you calling me instead of your partner?" "He is at another appointment, talking about his feelings." She almost spat the last word, though her strength faltered. "I am in our bedroom staring at a crib that never got used." The admission slipped through her defenses before she could block it. For a moment I heard only soft sounds on the line. "I hate you, and I hate that sometimes I do not." That confession hit me harder than any threat she had thrown. "You are the only person who looked scared before this went bad. If you think I wanted this for you, you are wrong." I paced the sidewalk while Mark watched from a distance. "I wanted distance, I wanted respect, not a dead ch. Ilde." She let out a broken laugh that sounded more like a sob. "Intent does not matter when you are the face people picture. I cannot carry your grief on top of mine." My voice steadied as I spoke, surprising both of us. "You need professionals, medication, support groups, not a target." On her end, I heard a quiet sniffling that she tried to hide. "Tell him he destroyed 2 women with one dream," she whispered, then hung up. I lowered the phone slowly and met Mark's questioning eyes. "Everything okay?" He studied my expression, wary and hopeful. "She called," I answered, slipping the phone into my bag. "She is drowning and she wants both of us blamed and saved." The conflict in that call clung to me like damp clothes. "What did you tell her?" "That I will not be her punching bag or her healer." He nodded once, understanding more than he liked. That is probably the first boundary anyone ever set for her. He glanced toward the street, where cars moved through their own stories. As we parted ways in the parking lot, he hesitated. "If I ever become a decent man, it will be because I finally listened. To doctors, to therapists, to the part of him that was never satisfied. And to the woman who refused to carry my guilt anymore." I walked away without answering, but his words stayed with me like a challenge. The fist hit my front door hard enough to rattle it. A second blow followed before I even stood up from the chair. By the third, I recognized the rhythm, wild and uneven. I checked the peephole and saw smeared mascara and shaking shoulders. Jenna had finally found my address, and she was not alone inside her rage. I cracked the door with the chain still on and waited. She pushed against it like she could break the metal with willpower. "Open this, I know you are in there, your car is outside." Her breath came fast, almost wheezing, words bumping into each other. There was something frantic in her eyes that I had never seen before. "Back up or I call the cops," I kept my voice low. She took one wobbly step away, arms folded tight across her chest. "You already ruined my life, what do I care about police?" Her laugh came out raw, closer to a cough than humor. "I need answers, and he will not give me any." I slid the chain free and opened the door wider. Not out of kindness, out of wanting this contained and quick. She looked different now, smaller inside her clothes, energy drained. Her hands shook as she pointed at my porch. "You talked to him after court and then he changed." I leaned against the frame and steadied my own breathing. "What exactly do you think I told him?" "You told him he could walk away from me, from us." She jabbed a finger toward my driveway like my concrete held secrets. 2 weeks later, he packed a bag and never came back. I blinked once, more at the timing than the news. "Where is he staying?" I heard my own curiosity and hated it. "Across town with somebody, near that counseling place he goes to." Her mouth twisted around the word counseling like it tasted rotten. "He says we bring out the worst in each other now. Maybe he is finally telling the truth." I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. "You and I both know what your house turned into." Her chin jerked up like I had slapped her. "You think I do not know I am unbearable?" Wind picked up and blew a strand of hair across her face. She tucked it back with an impatient flick, still glaring at me. He stares at the wall and talks about guilt and growth. Her fingers curled in the air like they wanted to claw something. I talk about my son and he tells me to journal. Why come here with that? I kept my arms at my sides. Because he listens when you speak, not when I scream. Her throat moved as she swallowed something thick. You got him to therapy, to honesty, to walking away. Her eyes glistened, furious and pleading at the same time. I told him to stop leaning on me, I answered. That is what you're both doing right now. She stared at me like she could not believe I refused the role. You were the first person who looked scared when the doctors worried. Her voice dropped, softer than I had ever heard it. For a moment, we just stood there in the doorway light. Loss hung between us in different shapes, both ugly. I thought if I made you hurt first, I would stay safe. She laughed once, short and humorless. Now he looks at me like I am a grenade. You blamed me for something your body and his choices did. My grip tightened on the railing, knuckles pulling tight. I am done carrying pieces of a story I did not write. Her shoulders sagged as if that sentence knocked out the last support. So you really will not help me keep him? No, the word left my mouth clean and solid. I will not help you hold on to someone who wants out. Her eyes filled so fast I saw the moment they overflowed. Then what was all this for? She whispered, voice cracking. All that fighting, all that posturing, if we both end up alone. Behind her, a car pulled to the curb and stopped. Mark stepped out, keys in hand, expression tight and wary. He paused when he saw us on the porch together. His gaze flicked from her to me, reading the energy instantly. I told you I would handle this, you were not supposed to come here. She spun toward him, practically shaking with frustration. You were taking too long, I thought she had gotten to you again. He ran a hand over his jaw and exhaled slowly. No one got to me, I went to that office by myself. He nodded toward the counseling center logo on his hoodie. Then tell her you're coming home, her voice rose again. Tell her this break is temporary, that grief is messy, whatever. She grabbed the front of his shirt and bunched it in her fists. I buried our child, I should not have to beg for my partner. Her words rang down the quiet street, raw and jagged. He eased her hands down, finger by finger, like diffusing a bomb. I cannot heal in the same place we tore each other apart. His tone was calm, almost too calm for what we witnessed. You throw darts at the world, I drown in guilt, nothing moves. He glanced at me once, like checking if I was still there. Do not talk like a brochure, she snapped, backing away. Drop the therapy phrases and just admit you stopped loving me. Her chest heaved as she stared him down. He swallowed and looked at the ground for a long second. When he died, whatever fantasy I had about fixing my past with you died too. That line hung between them, heavy enough to bow both. He did not flinch away from his own words this time. She stared at him like she did not recognize the man facing her. You promised me forever, she whispered, voice thin and disbelieving. And I meant it until forever turned into a grave and a war zone. She turned toward me again, eyes burning, searching for an ally. Do you hear him? Do you hear what he is doing? I met her gaze and felt something inside me finally click. He is doing to you what he did to me, only now you see it. The truth was simple and cruel, and it landed. For the first time, she looked past me into my house. Her eyes took in the locked door, the bare entry, the emptiness. You really live with nothing of him here? She asked quietly. I nodded once, not trusting my voice for a moment. I kept myself, that is more than I had before. Sirens wailed faintly far away, then faded again as they turned. Nobody on the street came out, yet I felt watched anyway. Jenna wiped her face with the heels of her hands. You both get to go work on yourselves, she muttered. I stay in a room built for 3 with only ghosts. You do not have to stay there either, he answered. You can sell, move, join a group, whatever keeps you breathing. She laughed harshly, shoulders quaking. I do not want a circle of strangers, I want my son and my life back. Her voice broke on life and she covered her mouth. You will never get that exact version again, I said. We both looked at me, surprised I entered the exchange. I will never get mine back either, not the way it was. I stepped down one stair so we were almost level. We can keep clawing at old pictures or let them burn. She stared at me, then at him, then back. Do you want him? She asked suddenly, desperate and wild. Is that what this is, some twisted full circle? Heat shot up my neck because part of me remembered easier times. The rest of me remembered hospital walls and final papers. No, I answered clear enough for the neighbors to hear. I want quiet and a life that does not orbit his decisions. I caught his flinch in the corner of my eye. Whatever he becomes now is for him and whoever comes next. I left the word whoever open on purpose as a warning. Jenna looked at him like she might lunge or collapse. Instead, she straightened her spine with stubborn effort. You walk away from me, you walk away from him, she said. Do not come knocking on my door when your progress gets lonely. She pointed down the street, dismissal and heartbreak tangled together. He did not chase her when she stomped toward the car. She climbed in, slammed the door, and peeled off too fast. The taillights vanished at the end of the block. He stood in the middle of my yard, hands hanging useless. For once, he seemed to understand no one was coming to scoop him up. You could have gone easier on her, he said after a moment. I raised an eyebrow and leaned back against the railing again. You wanted honesty when it was my turn, remember? He gave a tired half nod, acknowledging the echo. Fair, I just keep watching women bleed over choices I made. You did not make her body fail, I answered softer now. You played your part in the chaos around it though. He let out a long breath and looked toward the sky. My therapist keeps asking what I am doing diff. Fair, not what I regret. He gave a short, humorless exhale that might someday become a laugh. So what are you doing different? I crossed my arms loosely. I cut off the hero act for one. He glanced at me, a flicker of self-awareness in his eyes. I used to think I could save everyone by promising enough. He shook his head once. Now I tell the truth even when it kills things. Truth killed us before anything else did, I reminded him. Just late and messy and mixed with betrayal. He winced, then nodded without arguing, which was new. I know there is no version where we come back together, he said. I still hope there is a version where you do not hate me forever. I thought about that for longer than he liked. I do not wake up angry at you anymore, I admitted. That feels like a miracle after the year we had. He swallowed hard, like that was more than he expected from me. Then maybe I did one thing right by leaving when I did. Do not rewrite it that fast, I snapped, though not with full force. You left to chase a fantasy, not to rescue me. His shoulders dipped, but he did not deny it again. I know, but my leaving freed you even if that was not my goal. He looked at my porch, at my face, at my steady stance. Where are you going from here? I asked. New job out of state, smaller place, fewer reminders. He tapped his fingers against his thigh, restless. My counselor suggested changing more than my address, so I am trying. He hesitated, then added, I will visit the grave before I go. You should, I said, but not to punish yourself. He tilted his head, curious in spite of everything. Why then? To acknowledge that a child existed and changed you, even briefly. He blinked fast, cleared his throat, and looked away. Do you ever think about him? He asked after a pause. I did not pretend to misunderstand who he meant. Yes, I answered, letting the words sit there. Not as mine, not as yours, just as a turning point. A tiny life that shifted 3 different paths at once. He nodded slowly, absorbing that view like it was new. I keep waiting to stop hurting, he admitted, voice low. Hurt means something mattered, I said, you just cannot live inside it. He rubbed his eyes with the heel of his hand. That sounds like something my therapist would put on a poster. Maybe you are finally listening then. I moved toward the door, hand on the knob. This is the last time we have this conversation on my stoop. He understood that, I could see it in how he straightened. Thank you for picking up the phone that night, he said. I hesitated with the door halfway open, old images flashing. Him screaming down the line, hospital corridors, that harsh word drawer. I picked up because I thought someone might die, I answered. Now I am choosing to hang up so I can live. His eyes shone, but he did not argue with the metaphor this time. He stepped back from the porch and shoved his hands into his pockets. I hope you find something good that has nothing to do with me. The sentence sounded awkward and sincere, like a new language. I hope you do too, I replied, surprising myself a little. Just not in my neighborhood. He huffed out a breath that almost counted as a real laugh. Fair enough, he turned toward his car and paused once more. If you ever hear I became a decent man, believe it. He looked over his shoulder with a crooked, almost smile. It will be because pain finally taught me what love is not. After he left, the yard felt strangely quiet, almost calm. I stood in the doorway for a long minute, listening to nothing. Inside, a stack of documents sat where I had dropped them earlier. Divorce decree, lawyer letters, copies of things I no longer needed. I gathered them up and carried them to the kitchen. One envelope remained at the bottom that I had never opened. A nurse had pressed it into my hand that hospital night. Information on support after pregnancy loss, she had said. I had shoved it away and ignored it through every fight since. Now my fingers slid under the seal without shaking. Inside were pamphlets and a small card with a number. Group for families affected by infant death, the top line read. Families, not mothers, not couples, anyone who carried that kind of break. For a moment I pictured Jenna sitting in a circle with strangers. For another I pictured myself there, admitting my own scars. I set the card on the table instead of tossing it. Maybe I would go someday, maybe I would not, I did not decide yet. But I left the option in plain sight instead of hiding it. Denial had kept all of us stuck longer than necessary. I was tired of pretending I had not been hit by the same shrapnel. That night I walked to a small park down the street. Children's voices echoed faintly from a playground still open late. I watched parents push swings and chase running kids. A year ago the scene would have got at me. Now it hurt, but it did not hollow me out completely. I sat on a bench and let myself breathe with the noise. One toddler tripped, burst into tears, then got scooped up fast. The adult whispered something into his hair, and he settled slowly. Fear, pain, comfort, repeat, that cycle would follow him for years. At least he had arms that held instead of vanished. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, then stopped. I did not check the screen right away like I used to. When I finally looked, it was a calendar reminder. Deadline to respond to settlement adjustments, the alert read. I deleted it because there were no more legal ties to adjust. On the way home, I passed a storefront with my reflection. For the first time, I saw someone more than an ex or a rival. I saw a woman who had walked through an emotional house fire and left. Not untouched, not clean, but standing on her own legs. The mistress had lost the child she waved in my face, and the man too. Me, I lost the illusion that either of them defined my worth. That loss hurt in its own sharp way. But underneath the ache, something steady had started to grow. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a rough kind of freedom. The kind you only get after you stop begging broken people to choose you.